G'day and welcome to the Choosing Your Uni podcast. My name is Rob Malicki. In today's episode, we're taking a look at a university most people have never heard of that happens to have the best graduate employment rate in Australia. This episode draws on a session I presented as part of the Choosing Your Uni National Virtual Expo. You can find out more about the expo by visiting expo.choosingyouruni.com. Here's a number that should stop you in your tracks. Avondale University posted a 97.7% graduate employment rate in the QELT Graduate Outcomes Survey. That's not top 10. That's not top 5. That is number 1 in the entire country. And yet, if you asked 100 people on the street to name an Australian university, I'd be stunned if a single one of them said Avondale. So what on earth is going on here? How does a university with just 1,500 students, fewer than a lot of high schools, outperform every other institution in the country on that particular measure? That's what I want to unpack today, because I think there are some genuinely useful lessons in this story for anyone trying to figure out where to study. The first thing that really stands out to me is what small class sizes actually do for the student experience when they're done properly. Avondale has around 56 academic staff for those 1,500 students. That ratio is like nothing you'd get at a large public university. You're not sitting in a lecture hall with 300 other people, never making eye contact with your lecturer. You're known. You have direct access to the people teaching you, and the data backs this up beautifully. Avondale's student satisfaction score is 89.7% on the National QELT survey. To put that in perspective, the national average sits in the mid to high 70s. The University of Melbourne, Australia's top-ranked university, comes in at 73.8%. Bond University, which charges a premium for its small class experience, scores 88.3%. Avondale is right there alongside Bond, and in some measures ahead of it. That's a roughly 20 percentage point gap between Avondale and some of the most famous universities in the country. When you feel known, supported, and part of a genuine community, you report higher satisfaction. It's not complicated, but very few institutions actually deliver it at this level. Here's where it gets interesting though, and I think this is the real insight. That extraordinary employment figure isn't just about being small. It's about being small and laser focused on the right disciplines. Avondale's flagship programs are nursing and education, both fully accredited professional degrees with extensive placement hours built into the curriculum. Nursing students do clinical placements at the Sydney Adventist Hospital and other approved providers. Education students do multiple supervised placements in schools. By the time you graduate, you've got hundreds of hours of supervised practice from a specialist institution, and you're walking into job markets that are absolutely desperate for graduates. Australia has acute workforce shortages in both nursing and teaching right now. So when you combine a specialist training environment, deep placement experience, and red-hot employer demand, a 97.7% employment rate starts to make a lot of sense. It's not magic, it's alignment. And that leads me to a broader point I think is really worth reflecting on. We tend to assume that bigger is better when it comes to universities, more subjects, more students, more global rankings, prestige. But Avondale doesn't appear in the Times Higher Education or QS World rankings at all. And honestly, that tells you more about the rankings than it does about Avondale. Those systems heavily weight research output, international student numbers, and reputation surveys, all of which favour large research-intensive institutions. What Avondale does exceptionally well, teaching quality, student experience, and getting graduates into jobs, simply doesn't get picked up by those measures. If you're a student choosing based solely on ranking tables, you'd never even see Avondale. And that's a flaw in how we measure university quality, not a flaw in the university. Now, I do want to be upfront about something. Avondale genuinely isn't for everybody. And I mean that as a factual observation, not a marketing line. This is a Seventh-day Adventist institution. The faith-based identity is real. It's not decorative. It's not a heritage thing where there's a chapel on the brochure. And that's about it. Christian values are woven through the curriculum. There are worship opportunities built into campus life. And service is part of the educational philosophy. You don't have to be Adventist to enrol, but you absolutely have to be comfortable in that environment. For students for whom faith is central to their identity and they want it integrated into their education, Avondale is one of the very few places in Australia that genuinely delivers that. If that's not you, that's completely fine, but you should know what you're walking into. The other thing to be realistic about is breadth. Avondale offers programs across education, nursing, counselling, business, ministry, and theology. If your dream is engineering, law, or computer science, you're going to need to look elsewhere. But within the areas it does cover, the depth is impressive. Counselling is a growing area that's worth watching, particularly given Australia's mental health workforce shortages, which are close to catastrophic. And on the theology side, if that's your calling, there are almost no places in Australia offering this kind of integrated theological education within a university setting. One more thing I want to flag, because I think it's an underrated factor. The alumni network at a niche institution like Avondale carries real weight. Graduates are deeply embedded in Adventist schools, hospitals, and churches across Australia and the South Pacific. Because the community is small and tight-knit, those connections translate directly into professional opportunities. For students planning to work in those sectors, the network you build at Avondale has genuine, concrete career value that you simply won't replicate from a larger generalist institution. If Avondale sounds interesting, but you want to compare it against other options, there are a few institutions I'd put on your shortlist. The University of Notre Dame, Australia is probably the closest direct match. Small, private, faith-based, with strong programs in nursing and education, though Catholic rather than Adventist. The University of Divinity in Melbourne is worth a look if theology is your primary interest. Australian Catholic University offers a wider range of subjects within a faith framework and has campuses across multiple cities. And if you want to stay on the Central Coast or in the Hunter but you're after scale and breadth, the University of Newcastle is the natural geographic alternative. If you'd like to explore your options further, check out the free resources at Choosing Your Uni. It's independent guidance designed to help you find the right path wherever that leads. That's it for this episode. I'm Rob Malicki on Garigal Land in Sydney. Have a great day.